guys, let's just go ahead and jump on into this recipe. You're going to need some parchment paper, a rolling pin or something similar, some measuring spoons and a cup, a lid, what I like to use to make my tortilla shape. You're going to need some coconut flour, some psyllium husk powder, some baking powder, and some herb spices. I'm just using pink Himalayan sea salt. You're also going to need 1 cup of very warm water. Okay, let's jump on into the recipe. In a bowl, you're going to measure out your coconut flour. You're going to need a 1/2 cup of coconut flour. You can use almond flour if you want. Just make sure that the consistency is the same. You're not going to want to skip out on the psyllium husk powder though. You could probably also try using some chia seeds or flax meal, whatever you want to do, but just make sure that the consistency is right and you use psyllium husk powder as well. So go ahead and get that added to your bowl. And next, baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon. Doesn't matter what order you add your dry ingredients, just get them all in the bowl. So 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, and then you're going to add 2 tablespoons of the psyllium husk powder. I believe 1 tablespoon of the psyllium husk powder is 9 grams, so if you want, you can just measure out 18 grams on your scale, which is what I would normally do, but for the purpose of this video, I wanted it to be more user-friendly and not everyone has a scale, but I highly recommend everybody getting a scale if you're in weight loss mode and you're trying to lose weight and you're counting your calories and macros and all that. So at this point, add your seasonings. I'm just using pink Himalayan sea salt. You can add some cumin or herbs, any other spices you would like, depending on what you're making these tortillas for. Give it a mix really well, get rid of all the clumps, and now you're going to add your very warm water. And I add about 3/4 of the water, maybe even a little bit more, to the bowl. Give it a stir, and the coconut flour and the psyllium husk powder really sucks up that water really well. It is super dry. So you're going to add a little bit more. Depending on where you live, I'm sure you could add a little more or a little less, but I added 1 cup, seemed to work perfectly fine, and I just kind of mix it with the back of my spoon to get it all incorporated very well. And at this point, you can turn it over onto the counter and use your hand and knead it a little bit, but I wanted to keep it in the bowl just to keep my surface as clean as possible because this can get a little bit sticky. You don't want it to be too sticky though, and that's what I'm showing you right here. It's not really sticking to my hands, but you do not want it to be too dry. So make sure you kind of have it just kind of the perfect consistency, if you know what I mean. I'm just going to divide mine into 8 even pieces or similar pieces. Doesn't really matter because it's going to make more than 8 tortillas. I just like that size ball to start out with when I roll out my dough. So that's 8 pieces right there. Next up, you're going to take your parchment paper. You're going to get a couple pieces, roughly the same size, doesn't matter, because you're just going to use these pieces to put your dough ball in between and use your rolling pin to roll out the tortilla as thin as you possibly can. And I accidentally rolled mine out and my rolling pin touched the dough and it stuck so bad. So I highly recommend using something in between or, to roll out your dough with. I don't know if regular cling wrap will work, or I definitely do not recommend foil, but maybe wax paper, that might work. You just give it a try. I would just, get the parchment paper. I got mine at the dollar store for $1, so I usually stock up when I go there. And you're going to want to roll it out as thin as you possibly can because I find that the texture and the taste is better when they're thin, and, it's just a win-win because they're less calories, less carbs. When the thinner you make them, it's kind of just like a vessel for something else. So as you can see, that's super thin. It holds together super nice, and that's it. That's one. I reuse my parchment paper until it starts to get a little bit soggy. And right here I tried to use my mortar just because it's so heavy, and I thought that, hey, maybe it'll work and it'll make it super thin. But I even put all my weight on it and pushed as hard as I could. It made a really pretty circle, but it was not even close to as thin as I like. So that didn't work. I also wanted to try getting a tortilla press. I'm not even sure if that would make it as thin as I prefer. So I ended up just rolling it out anyways and using my pot lid to make my perfect circle and to make them all the same size. And that just seems to work the best for me. I've made these quite a few times and I just like to make them that way. And that's about as thick as I will make them. I do not like them any thicker than that. When I have about 4 of them done, I'll go ahead and start my pan. I melted a tablespoon of coconut oil, and that's what I'm going to use on my pan. If you have coconut oil spray or any other like very light tasting oil spray, then go ahead and use that. I'm pretty sure you can use butter. I already filmed one and it wasn't recording, so I just kind of put a little bit of coconut oil on, just like that, with my little brush on my pan. Put the tortilla directly on there, let it cook on one side, flip it over, and as I'm cooking these on the stove, I'm on the other side of the kitchen rolling out more tortillas, because, you know, I just think it's kind of pointless to just roll them all out and then cook them. I kind of do both at the same time. So on one side, when it's cooking, I'll go over there and roll some more out. Cook, roll, cook, roll, cook, roll, and just kind of keep the ball rolling, if you know what I mean. When you cook them, they do shrink up quite a bit just because there's water in them, and when they cook, the water evaporates, and so they do shrink a little bit, which I like these because they're perfect tiny little street taco size, and I just love them. I don't like them any bigger because I try to keep my carbs as low as possible, but they cook up pretty quickly, and I like to store them in a Ziploc bag, and I just leave them on the counter. No need to refrigerate these, you guys, because they really won't even last that long. So as I roll on the other side, I'm over here cooking them, flipping them around, and see, they just turn out so perfect. I love them, and they're pliable. They don't like crack or anything like that, unless you put them on a flame like I like to do. They might get a little dried out, but I still love them that way anyways. And so you just cook them up. There's a little close up. And this is how I like to prepare them. So I just take them from the Ziploc whenever I'm ready to cook one or eat one. I just throw it on the flame. If you guys have a gas stove at your house, this is awesome. I always crave a burnt tortilla. I don't know about you guys, but this is how I love them. I really hope you guys try this recipe out. If you do and you like it, please give me a thumbs up, shout out in the comments if you try it. And yeah, so I hope you guys like this recipe, and like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.